Welcome to my studio. It's still winter here, but it feels like spring has come early, so the doors to the studio have been flung open. This week, I'm making tea bowls. I'm not using any fancy equipment, and I'm taking you through the whole process from preparing clay to drinking tea. So let's get started. I've prepared my clay to 250 grams. And I start by centering my clay. So I was going to throw these both off the hump and individually, but I think it's going to be too much for one video, so I'll stick to throwing these from individual pieces of clay. I'll make a video where I show you how to throw off the hump soon. So once my clay is centered, I push down and open out. I'm leaving plenty of clay at the base because I want to trim a generous foot ring that's at least 10 mil. As I open out, I'm starting to form the interior curve of the bowl. So now I'm ready to bring the walls up. So squeezing gently from the inside and the outside, I bring my hands up together slowly. I'm making the walls quite straight. I get the height of the walls and the thickness, and then I'm going to think about the shape. Now that I have the height and I can feel that the walls are the right thickness, I'm going to start shaping. I compress the rim of the tea bowl to keep it even. I'm not too fussed about these tea bowls being identical, but I am after a particular shape. I'm using my fingers as a rough guide for the sizing. So I need to bring the tea bowl out a little more. Now I'm going to use a sponge to smooth. And then I'm ready to trim around the base to make it easier to wire through and remove my pot from the wheel. Before I remove my pot from the wheel, I'm going to use a chamois just to round the rim. I think the rim of a tea bowl is particularly important. So now I'm ready to wire through, and then making sure that my hands are really dry, I'm going to gently lift from the base of the tea bowl and place the tea bowl onto a ware board. So my tea bowls are leather hard and ready to trim. I check to make sure there's enough clay in the base and that the clay is a good consistency to trim. So now I need to center my tea bowl on the wheel, and to do this I'm going to tap center. So I place my tea bowl on the wheel and start the wheel slowly. As it rotates, I tap on the side of the bowl, moving the bowl with each tap towards the center. It works really well with tea bowls. When they're upturned, they have a low center of gravity. So now I use 3 clay lugs to fasten my tea bowl onto the wheel head. Notice that I'm holding the base of the tea bowl with one hand as I add the lugs to fasten. If I don't hold the bowl, it might move and I'll have to center it again. Notice that I'm not pushing the clay towards the bowl, I'm pushing the clay down onto the wheel head. The lugs will hold the bowl in place, but won't damage the bowl. So I'm going to start by making an indentation where I want the outer foot ring. And then I make a similar mark for the inner edge of the foot ring. These are going to be my guides. I'll start with the outer and I'll trim downwards. I'm using a pretty basic trimming tool. It's really sharp, which makes the whole process a little easier. So I'm trimming the excess clay on the outer edge of the foot ring. And I'm going to need to work out how I'm going to integrate the foot ring with the bowl shape. These are going to have quite a pronounced foot ring with a defined change in direction. I also want to make sure that the outside curve of the bowl reflects the inside of the bowl shape. So now I have the outer foot ring. I'm just going to make sure that the area that I've just trimmed integrates with the shape of the bowl. And now I'm ready to trim the inside of the foot ring. So I'm really starting in the center and just trimming out to that inner foot ring guide. So at this stage, I really need to be careful that I don't trim through the base. This is why I start the trimming process by checking to see how thick the base is. So now I'm working on refining the inner and outer edge of the foot ring. Then I'm going to smooth with a slightly damp sponge and my fingers. Now I'm ready to remove the lugs of clay. Perfect. Now I'm ready to dry, bisque fire and glaze. Because I have such a small studio, I can't really store a lot of glaze buckets, so I rely on a few standard glazes and then some brush-on glazes. I like to glaze things like tea balls in a large bowl. I'm using tongs to get a good even coverage. I'm also going to do some tea balls with a different colour on the inside, and for that I'm using a brush-on Temuku. I find a soft hake brush works perfectly. So after a couple of coats and drying in between, I'm ready to do the outer colour. So I hold the dried bowl with my hand on the interior and gently lower the tea ball into the glaze just up to the rim. And if you're steady, you can get a great glaze line this way. It might just take a little bit of practice in using your hands to hold the bowl in this way. So now they're ready for the final firing. I have noticed that I might need a teapot to go with these, so stay tuned. For more foundation skills in making bowls, this time really big bowls, watch my throwing a large fruit bowl video. I hope you found this useful, and as always, thanks for watching.